Hi, folks. Welcome to today's edition of Notre Dame Daily. And for those of you out there, maybe here on the East Coast or New York City or wherever you might be, if today was the first day of school, if you're a teacher or if you have kids or grandkids or nephews and nieces starting school, like I did today, was my first day of school as a teacher. It was my daughter's first day of pre-K 3, which was just adorable. Enjoy it. Best of luck moving forward. It's a long year, but it does go by quick. We are already 1 week into the football season here, and while the Irish are 0-1, as I said earlier in the week on the last couple shows, there's a lot to like and a lot to improve, as there generally is. Look, you get a lot to improve sometimes when you win games, right? And we've seen it in the past. I mentioned it yesterday. You throughout the history of sports, good teams have bad nights. Good teams lose games too. It does happen. As far as A&M is concerned, we'll have a couple of days to get into that now heading into this weekend with Notre Dame on the bye, so a few more days to prep for Mike Elko and his return to South Bend. But I do want to start with some recruiting news first. And it does tie into the A&M game as Notre Dame continues to ready for the September 13th home opener against Texas A&M. The program is also preparing to host multiple major recruits that day on campus. And there's beyond a handful of them. Four-star 27 defensive lineman Santana Harvey, who's a 6'5", 220-pounder from Florida. 2028 pass rusher Jackson Vaughn out of Bergen Catholic in Jersey, who I absolutely love, is expected to be in attendance. 27 corner Tavares Harrington. He's a Mount Carmel in Illinois kid. You want to hammer away at that area, as I've talked about, and many of you have chimed in as well. You got QB commits and Teddy Gerard, 27, Noah Grubbs, 26. They'll be in the house, as will, as expected, Ellis McGaskin, 2027 linebacker commit. So they're all expected to be in attendance as the Irish battle the Aggies that night. And this is a major recruiting gather for a Notre Dame program, as we know, looking to continue the momentum on that front, which began in 2025 with a very good class. We're starting to see that now, but then exploded, right, as we've discussed the last couple of months, with one of the top classes in America, or a class that turned out to be one of the best in America during that 2026 window. So you have major talent coming at positions that are needed from a depth perspective, as they always are. D-line, wide receiver, more on that in a second. Quarterback, and on the back end of the defense, Marcus Freeman and his staff now hope a winning performance under the lights in South Bend on the 13th is another major step in the right direction when it comes to landing some of the premier high school talent in the country. You put on a good show there. And look, the Miami-Notre Dame game, you're a Notre Dame fan, obviously not the result you wanted. Miami win vaults them into the top 5. If you're a recruit there who might be interested in both schools, you saw some damn good football, and you saw what high-level competition looks like on the Division I level with two of the blue blood programs there in Miami and Notre Dame going at it, and Miami just coming away with it in the end after Notre Dame battling back. So those are good things. Yeah, when you're home, you want to win the game. You want to put on a good performance. You had a lot of recruits a couple of seasons ago when Notre Dame hosted Ohio State under the lights, wore the green jerseys, and came up short, but it was a good football game. I think we'll have the same thing here for Texas A&M, which we'll talk about some of the things Notre Dame needs to do to prepare. But when you're talking about getting kids in the building, front and center, almost like an in-person resume, this is one of those big games. It's not just your home opener, but it's against a big SEC program in Texas A&M. And in addition to the names mentioned, Notre Dame is also expected to have a visit from Mount Carmel wideout Quentin Burrell. So there's another guy from the local area. And Indy Lawrence North receiver Monson Sales. They're two 5-star machines in the 27 class expected to be at the game. Sales is a 6'5", 200-pounder. One of the top players in all of America, regardless of position. And in addition to this kid taking visits over the next few months now, including Notre Dame, he's also committed to playing the 2026 Navy All-American Bowl. 30-plus offers on his plate. There's major competition, but the Irish, at least right now, I think they like where they sit with this one. Kid's a stud. Watch his film. Burrell's a 6'3", 175-pound star who's really blossomed into one of the top players in the class while putting up just monster numbers at Mount Carmel, the uber-athletic pass catcher, and he is, just watch. 75 balls last season, his sophomore campaign, over 1,200 yards, and just a whopping number of 18 touchdowns. These are the type of kids you want on your team. Georgia, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, in addition to Notre Dame. I believe Alabama's in there. are among the top schools. Ole Miss, I think, is another one in the mix. But for me, I do like Notre Dame's chances here. This is the type of kid you want to go out and get. Both of them would be absolute home runs. Because when you look ahead, landing two receivers of this caliber to support what you have already moving forward would be massive. The likes of Gilbert, K.K. Smith, Cam Williams, Greathouse, Faison on the roster. The additions of young weapons like these fine gentlemen would only bolster the firepower on the outside, something Marcus Freeman has worked diligently in elevating. It wasn't a strong suit when he took the program over, and at least right now, the stepping stones were there to make your receiving room consistently legitimate. And as I've said multiple times, and many people have agreed, fans and even those in the media, this is the deepest, most talented wide receiver group Marcus Freeman's had in his time as head coach at Notre Dame. Continuing to build that part of the depth chart is going to be huge. And you do that, yeah, the portal helps. You got Pauling and Fields in here, but you do it for sustainability purposes via recruiting. Marcus Freeman has gotten an A+ the last couple of seasons in that regard. And we have all these guys coming to the A&M game September 13th, and you know the Irish want to upgrade some areas, make some changes, and that's a no-brainer. How does Chris Ash's defense prepare for Texas A&M? Because as we know, Mike Elko now going into year 2 as head coach of the Aggies, and he's going to bring a team to South Bend with high expectations on September 13th. But it's an A&M team. If you watch the game against UTSA in their opener, I didn't think they looked particularly great, for what that's worth. From a defensive perspective, Chris Ash knows what he has in front of him in the Aggies, as do many players from last year's team who are going to see many of the same talented guys that appeared in Notre Dame's 23-13 win a season ago in College Station. While the Irish did surrender 27 points in the season opening loss, didn't always get the help from the turnovers from the offense, allowing Miami to just average over 3 yards per carry was a massive positive. Because it once again, what did it show us? It once again showed that Notre Dame's run defense has the capability to be consistently stout, even if they look down in spots throughout the game. Game 2 is going to bring another sound rushing attack, and it's led by sophomore quarterback Marcel Reed and returning running back Le'Veon Moss. Now, Reed was A&M's leading rusher in the season-opening win against UTSA. That was a 42-14 win. And again, while A&M didn't look all that great in spots, they do possess massive talent. Reed ran for 41 yards on 8 carries, but he threw for another 289 yards. So you got dual threat there. We'll talk more about him as next week tracks on and we get closer to the game. Moss, who's returning from an injury, he's one of the best backs in the SEC, one of the best backs in the country when he's healthy. Carried the ball 3 times for 19 yards, but he's flat out dangerous when he's full go. It's undeniable. So in this one for Ash and the Notre Dame defense as a whole, look, you saw what happened when they needed to tighten up and get more aggressive. They were productive and they got 3 and outs. Leaning on the likes of Jalen Sneed and Jaden Osbury, who were great against Miami, will be big in slowing the A&M rushing attack. Chris Ash knows that. On the outside, the Irish are going to lean on their incredible corner duo of Moore and Gray, and that's significant. In A&M's opening game, you think they would pound the rock, and Reed has had his fair share, but they did it, a lot of their damage through the air. Mario Craver grabbed 8 balls for $122 and 2 scores. Casey Concepcion, who hauled in another 3 for 72 as A&M's primary speed weapon. So the Irish secondary knows it's going to continue to play at a high level, and you've got to be more consistent. I don't want to say the back end because I thought Moore and Gray were fantastic, but from the safety position. Now, Stroman had a solid game, I get it, but you want to see your leading safeties really play to that level that we discussed and broke down on this here very show leading up to the season. I would say this with the Notre Dame running game. You go back to the second quarter of Miami. Giving up 47 yards on 10 carries sort of allowed Miami to churn away, and it was a pinnacle time for the Canes to open it up and just take control until obviously Notre Dame had that great offensive fourth quarter and put up 17 points. But a lot of damage is done there. You surrender 47, almost 50 yards in a given quarter to the home team when they have some of the momentum already. You don't want to be doing that against an Elko team that you know wants to be physical and hit you in the mouth. So you got to be careful here and tighten these things up, and I think they will. Falling behind, getting sloppy like they did in that juncture is not going to go well against Texas A&M. It just isn't. Because, again, they want to showcase their own brand of physicality. So entering this one, increasing the pass rush, You got to do it. It's got to happen. You got to get into that backfield. Unsuccessful against the veteran Carson Beck, you got to put more pressure on these guys. You know you're going to get a mobile quarterback in Reed, so your front and your second-level guys got to be ready to go. Osbury, Tuialamaka, Bowen can run laterally and front to back, north to south there. They're going to have to be ready for this one because if the passing game is not there, Marcel Reed can tuck it and he can take off. So establishing more of that pass rush, yes, you want to be safe on the back end. That's going to be a biggie for Notre Dame. You want to be physical overall more as well. You want to see that man coverage a bit more, at least from where I'm sitting, leaning on your vents. The Bowens, Moores, the Grays, the Sneeds of the world, Tuialamaka, Jason Onye up front, while maintaining that stout run defense is going to be a great recipe for Notre Dame in this one as they hope to even their record going into Game 3 against Purdue, which follows the A&M contest. I'll actually be at the Purdue game, so if anybody's going, let me know. We can link up and hang out a bit. What will Notre Dame see defensively as Mike Elko's looking to rejuvenate a defense that was great in spots last year, but probably not at the level that his expectations traditionally want it to be? I think we all agree that we'd like to see Mike Denbrock dive into the playbook and give C.J. Carr the ability to throw the ball down the field more. I think we're all in lockstep there. Yes, the Irish wideouts have to be better. But as I said yesterday, not working in Greathouse from a target share perspective was just irresponsible. Ran 25, 26 routes, was targeted twice. Can't happen. This has to change September 13th. Texas A&M did a solid job in pass coverage in the opener, but it surrendered a total of over 220 rushing yards to UTSA. If the Irish, and they should be able to, can increase the carry and touch share by both Love and Price in this one, look, they can. It's got to be done. It could spell a long evening for the Aggies. You don't want to solely rely on just your passing game and become one-dimensional. Not with this type of running game. But in order to do that, you have to establish it better and more consistently than you did Game 1. Getting both backs in that rhythm will then allow for C.J. Carr, who I think we're all really excited to see what the next chapter looks like, to find Greathouse, Faison, and Malachi Fields, who, by the way, is going to have a 3-inch height advantage over A&M's starting corner pair in Will Lee and Julio Humphrey. They're good players. They're great athletes. But he's going to have a height advantage there, giving him chances to go up and get the football while targeting both Greathouse and Faison in order to allow them to make plays. You work your Micah Gilbert in there. That was a nice little element. It was good to see him playing good football and be involved with the touchdown in the Miami game. But getting Fields, letting him go up and get the football, giving him opportunities to do that, staying with Eli Raritan, want to clean up the drops, yes, I get it, and then allowing Greathouse and Faison to create off the route and then make plays after the catch is absolutely essential. I think the Irish make these changes, and you trust this coaching staff. I think it's going to be fun. I think we're going to have a fun week breaking it down. More news and updates will come out. Looking pretty damn good on the injury front, so we're okay there. Nothing serious when Gray left the game last week against Miami, came back. So we're all solid across the board for the most part. But as we get into next week after this weekend, we'll have some more news, and we'll dive deeper into what Notre Dame can expect beyond just a preview of Texas A&M, but some of the position groups as well. And, of course, I'll keep you updated throughout this passing weekend with what happens next in the world of recruiting. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the weekend wherever you may be. And again, we're all back to school somewhere along the lines. We have friends and family that have kids back in school. Best of luck with that. Enjoy it. It happens quick. I'll see you on Monday. As always, go Irish.